The first thing Ava Harper tasted when she woke up was salt water and her own blood. She was zipped inside a black body bag, rocking gently with the tide. Sand gritted between her teeth. Her lungs screamed, but no air came, only the wet slap of waves against the canvas. She remembered everything in perfect, surgical detail. 2 years earlier, at 3:14 a.m., on a rainy October night, she had been the chief of neurosurgery at New York Presbyterian, had been pulled out of bed for an emergency craniotomy. The patient, Ryan Blackwell, 30 years old, heir to Blackwell Renewable, single gunshot wound to the right temporal lobe, prognosis 0. Ava had spent 9 hours in that OR picking bullet fragments out of brain tissue while the monitors flatlined twice. She brought him back. The city called it a miracle. The Blackwell family called it destiny. Ryan called her. 6 months later, at 2:07 a.m., from the deck of his yacht in the Hamptons. "You stole my luck," he'd said, voice calm, almost tender. "Isabella was supposed to be the one standing next to me when I took over the company. You changed the stars. Ava?" She had laughed, thinking it was drunk rambling. It wasn't. They drugged her champagne at a charity gala. When she came to, her wrists were zip-tied, mouth duct-taped, body folded inside a North Face duffel. Ryan crouched beside her on the moonlit beach, rolling up his monogrammed sleeves like a man about to change a tire. "I loved her for 8 years, he said. "You took 8 years from me." He zipped the bag. He and 2 silent bodyguards carried her into the surf until the water reached their waists. Then they dropped her. The bag sank fast. Stones sewn into the bottom did their job. Ava counted heartbeats. 111 before the darkness won. She died believing 2 things. 1. Ryan Blackwell was insane. 2. She would never open her eyes again. She was wrong about the second. Ava jolted awake on the bathroom floor of her old Greenwich Village apartment, cheek pressed to cold tile, mouth full of the copper taste of rebirth. The mirror showed the same face, 32 years old, no new scars. But the calendar on her phone read October 12th. 10 days before Ryan Blackwell's 30th birthday. The day the fortune teller hired by his terrified mother had sworn he would die unless the woman born under the koi star stood at his side. Ava laughed until she cried. Then she stopped crying and started planning. 3 days after Rebirth, the intercom buzzed at 7:03 a.m. On the security feed, Eleanor Blackwell, matriarch, dressed in mourning black despite her son being very much alive, flanked by 2 lawyers and a bodyguard the size of a refrigerator. Ava let them wait 5 whole minutes. Then she opened the door barefoot, wearing yesterday's silk pajamas, hair in a messy knot, holding a mug that read, "World's Okayest Surgeon." "Mrs. Blackwell greeted, her voice honeyed. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Eleanor didn't waste time on pleasantries. She placed a cashier's check on the marble console, $50 million, payable to Dr. Ava Harper, and slid a property deed beside it, oceanfront mansion in Newport, 12 bedrooms, private dock. "Marry Ryan on his birthday. Save him again. Name your additional price." Ava sipped her coffee. "I'm flattered, but I'm retired from the savior business." The bodyguard shifted. Eleanor's smile thinned. The front door of the apartment building slammed downstairs footsteps. Fast, expensive Italian leather on marble. Ryan Blackwell appeared in the hallway. No tie, eyes bloodshot, looking like a man who hadn't slept since the last life. He stopped 2 feet from Ava and stared like she was a ghost. Because to him, she was... "You're supposed to be dead," he whispered. "Funny," Ava answered. "So are you, in about 10 days. Ryan's pupils contracted. Recognition, rage, terror. He hit it fast, but not fast enough. Eleanor looked between them, confused. "Ryan, darling, Dr. Harper has agreed to..." "She's a fraud," Ryan cut in, voice shaking with hate. "A lying, scheming fraud who almost destroyed my life once already. I have Isabella now. The Voss family, Senate connections, private security. I don't need some fake Lucky Charm." He stepped closer, lowered his voice so only Ava could hear. "I know you came back too. Please stay away from me this time, or I'll bury you deeper." Ava tilted her head. Threats before breakfast. You haven't changed. She turned to Eleanor, her expression gentle and almost kind. Mrs. Blackwell, your son is right about one thing. I'm not for sale. Not this time. She picked up the check, tore it neatly in half, then quarters, then eighths. The pieces fluttered to the floor like white petals. Eleanor went white. You'll regret. Goodbye, Eleanor. The bodyguard reached for Ava. Ryan caught his wrist. Let her go, he said, never taking his eyes off Ava. She just signed her own death warrant. They left. The door clicked shut. Ava waited 30 seconds, then pulled a burner phone from the freezer-old habit from residency nights and dialed a number she hadn't used in the previous life. A rough voice answered on the second ring. Who the hell is this? Ethan Ward, she asked. Silence, then speaking. I need to marry you in 10 days, Ava said. And I need you to hate Ryan Blackwell almost as much as I do. Another silence, longer. Ethan laughed, low and bitter. Lady, you just became my favorite person alive. Penthouse 88, 1 Central Park West. Bring whiskey. Ava hung up, slipped on her shoes, and grabbed her coat. Outside, autumn wind whipped through the village. She looked up at the sky, clear, cloudless, mercilessly bright, and smiled the first genuine smile since coming back. Round 2 had officially begun. The elevator to Penthouse 88 opened directly into Ethan Ward's living room, a fortress of glass and steel overlooking Central Park. The man waiting for her was not what the tabloids had painted. They called him the Broken Seal, the golden boy who took an IED in Helmand, lost the use of his legs, then lost his family's shipping empire to boardroom vultures. Photos always showed him in a wheelchair, face half hidden, eyes dead. The man who rose from the sofa to greet her was 6'4" of coiled danger, scarred and unshaven, wearing a black t-shirt stretched across shoulders that definitely still worked. The wheelchair sat folded in the corner like a forgotten prop. He didn't offer his hand. He studied her the way a sniper studies wind. You're late, Ethan said. Whiskey's warm. Ava set the bottle of 25-year Macallan on the counter anyway. I had to lose 2 Blackwell tails. Traffic was murder. Ethan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. You really are the doctor who pulled Ryan out of a coffin. Guilty. She poured 2 fingers for herself. 4 for him. And you're the ghost who's been bleeding Blackwell Renewable dry for 3 years through shell companies in the Caymans. Now he did smile, a sharp and sudden expression. You've done your homework. I always do. She clinked her glass against his. I need to marry you in 10 days. Ethan? Same day. Ryan's throwing his victory gala at the plaza. He leaned back against the counter, arms folded. Let me guess the terms. You bring the luck. I get the revenge. We destroy him together. Then divorce quietly when the dust settles. Ava shook her head. No divorce. His eyebrow arched. You want to keep me? I want to keep you alive, she corrected. And filthy rich. And walking again. If the rumors about your spinal cord are only 80% true, Ethan went very still. Can you fix my legs? I know I can. I've read your classified medical file. She stepped closer, close enough to smell gun oil and cedar. But first, I need a husband who hates Ryan Blackwell sufficiently to burn the world down with me. He searched her face for lies and found none. Why me? He asked quietly. Because in the last life, when Ryan had her buried, you were the only one who tried to dig me up. You sent divers to every private beach from Montauk to Cape Cod. You almost bankrupt yourself doing it. Ava's voice softened. I was already dead. Ethan, but you still tried. I owe you a life. Something fractured behind his eyes. He reached for the whiskey, drank it neat, then set the glass down hard. 10 days, he said. You'll have the worst proposal in history. He dropped to one knee, not gracefully, more like a controlled fall, and pulled a battered titanium dog tag from around his neck. Engraved on the back, Ward, O'Naig, no Preeth. Marry me, Ava Harper. Let's ruin a birthday party. She laughed, startled and breathless, and kissed him before he could stand back up. The kiss tasted like smoke and promises. Later, much later, when they were tangled in sheets that cost more than most cars, Ethan traced the faint scar on her ribcage, where Ryan's bodyguard had cracked her during the abduction. 10 days. He murmured against her skin. Then he loses everything. Ava threaded her fingers through his hair, still cut military short. 9, actually. I moved the timeline up. He lifted his head. You're terrifying. You have no idea. The next morning, Ethan stood up from the bed without the brace for the first time in 4 years, just long enough to carry her to the shower. He stared at his own feet as they belonged to a stranger. Ava kissed the shock off his face. Welcome back, soldier. Vera Wang's flagship on Madison Avenue smelled like money and panic. Ava walked in, wearing sunglasses, with a black Amex card between 2 fingers. Ethan at her side in a tailored Tom Ford suit that made him look like Sin in midnight wool. No wheelchair today. He leaned lightly on a carbon fiber cane. More theater than necessity. The manager practically curtsied. Dr. Harper, Mr. Ward, your private appointment is ready. They had the entire second floor to themselves, until they didn't. Isabella Voss strode in, flanked by 4 assistants and Ryan's head of security, looking like a blade in ice blue silk. She stopped dead in her tracks when she saw Ethan standing. Well, she drawled, the cripple walks, miracles do happen. Ethan's smile was all teeth. Careful, counselor, some miracles bite. Isabella ignored him, eyes locked on Ava. Ryan warned me you'd try something dramatic. Crashing our wedding with a pity proposal? How very on brand. Ava lifted a crystal flute of champagne from a passing tray. Actually, we're here to buy a dress. You're the one gate crashing. Isabella stepped closer, voice low enough that only Ava and Ethan could hear. He knows you're reborn. He's ready for every trick this time. Private militia, bomb-sniffing dogs. The plaza's been swept 3 times today alone. Whatever you're planning, it dies with you on that ballroom floor. Ava sipped her champagne. Good to know. Isabella's smile turned venomous. Enjoy your little revenge fantasy while it lasts. After the gala, Ryan's untouchable, Senate seat, White House whispers, the whole fairy tale. And you, she flicked a contemptuous glance at Ethan's cane. You'll be yesterday's charity case again. Ethan moved so fast the security guard didn't have time to flinch. He caught Isabella's wrist mid-gesture, grip gentle, pressure surgical. Touch my fiancé, and I'll break every metacarpal in your hand before your bodyguard clears leather, he said conversationally. We clear. Isabella jerked free, face flushed with fury. She stormed toward the exit, assistants scrambling after her. But not before Ava called out softly. Isabella. The lawyer paused. Tell Ryan the dress code is white, Ava said. Blood shows up better. Isabella left without another word. Ethan watched her go, eyes narrowed. She's lying about the militia. Ryan's paranoid, but he's also cheap. He hired local talent, not spec ops. Ava was already on her phone, texting in Mandarin to a contact in Shenzhen. Good. Cheap men flip easier. The manager returned, practically vibrating. Dr. Harper, your selection is ready. They were led to a private salon draped in ivory silk. On the center mannequin, a gown that looked like liquid moonlight, hand embroidered with tiny silver koi swimming through clouds. Retail price, $340,000. Ava ran her fingers over the beadwork. We'll take it. Ethan lifted a brow. You hate dresses. I don't hate weapons, she corrected. This one happens to be couture. While Ethan distracted the manager with questions about tailoring, Ava slipped into the fitting room. She pressed a discreet panel on the mirror. It slid aside, revealing a biometric safe. Inside a second black card, no name, no limit, registered to a Liechtenstein holding company that officially did not exist. She used it to buy the entire boutique, including staff, inventory, security cameras, and everything else, in under 4 minutes. When she emerged, the manager was pale, stammering. Dr. Harper, the system says the salon is now under new ownership. Ava smiled serenely. Correct. You all still have jobs. But from this moment forward, you answer to me. Does anyone know who bought the place? You saw nothing. She tipped the woman $20,000 in cash and walked out with the dress in a garment bag and Ethan's hand in hers. In the car, Ethan finally asked the question he'd been holding since the elevator. "What happens at the plaza, Ava?" She looked out at the city sliding past, yellow cabs and neon, and 8 million people who had no idea a war was coming. "Ryan thinks he's throwing a coronation," she said. "We're throwing a funeral." Ethan threaded his fingers through hers. "Whose?" Ava met his eyes, fierce and bright. "Everyone who deserves it. The Plaza Hotel. 800 p.m. 800 of America's most powerful people in black tie and diamonds, all pretending they were here for love instead of leverage. 2 ballrooms had been merged into one cathedral of crystal and gold. Ryan and Isabella's gala occupied the eastern half, featuring ice sculptures, a string quartet, and a 20-foot LED screen looping footage of Ryan shaking hands with senators. Ava and Ethan's wedding was the western half smaller, darker, lit almost entirely by candlelight and a single spotlight on an empty aisle. Guests kept glancing between the two sides, as if they were watching a prize fight. 8:07 p.m., exactly. The minute Ryan was supposed to have died in the previous life, the chandeliers flickered once and died. Total darkness. A woman screamed, glasses shattered. Then the emergency floods kicked in, bathing everything in blood-red light. Ethan stepped into the aisle. No cane, no limp. He wore midnight blue, almost black, and the expression of a man who had waited half a decade for this moment. Every phone in the room rose like periscopes. Ryan, standing at the eastern altar with Isabella, went rigid. The bulletproof vest under his tux suddenly felt very thin. The first shot came from the mezzanine. Silenced. Professional. It punched into the ice sculpture beside Ryan's head, exploding a swan into glittering shrapnel. Chaos. Screams, tables overturned. The Secret Service for 3 different senators tackled their principals to the ground. A second shot, this one meant for Isabella, took her bodyguard in the throat. He dropped gurgling. Ryan's head of security, a former Delta operator named Mercer, roared orders into his cuff and charged toward the mezzanine, drawing his sidearm. He made it 6 steps before his knees buckled. A tiny red dot danced on his forehead for half a second. Then the back of his skull painted the marble. The shooter was using Mercer's own rifle, taken from the armory truck 2 hours earlier, fitted with a suppressor bought on the dark web with Mercer's own credit card. Ava stood untouched in her moonlight gown, hands folded demurely, watching Ryan realize the betrayal in real time. Ryan's face cycled through shock, understanding, and raw animal terror. He bolted for the service corridor, dragging Isabella by the wrist. Ethan moved to follow, but Ava caught his sleeve. "Not yet," she whispered. "Let him run. The cage is smaller than he thinks." Overhead, the LED wall that had been playing Ryan's victory reel suddenly went black, then lit up with a new video. Grainy security footage Ryan, 2 years ago, on a secure phone in his father's hospital room. The night before the older man mysteriously coded. Ryan's voice, crystal clear. "Make it look natural. I want to secure the board seat by Friday." Gasps rippled through the remaining guests. Then another clip Ryan wiring $10 million to an account in Panama, the same account that paid the assassin who shot him in the temple. The attempt Ava had saved him from. The final nail, Shen, drunk on his yacht last month, bragging to a blonde who was actually Ethan in prosthetic makeup and a wire. "She'll be in the ground before the next moon. This time I do it myself." The ballroom went dead silent. Ryan froze in the corridor doorway. Isabella still clutched in his grip. He looked up at the screen, at the proof of his own patricide and attempted murder. And for the first time in 2 lives, he understood what it felt like to be hunted. He shoved Isabella away and sprinted alone. Ava finally moved. She lifted the hem of her gown and ran after him, Ethan half a step behind. They caught him on the rooftop, 33 floors above 5th Avenue, wind whipping the city into a roar. Ryan spun, gun in hand, wild, desperate. "Stay back," he screamed. "I have a dead man switch." My heart stops. Every account Ethan owns gets drained. Every classified op he ever ran hits WikiLeaks. Your precious doctor's medical license gets revoked for the illegal surgeries she did on cartel bosses in Tijuana. Ethan's voice was calm, already neutralized. 6 hours ago. You're bluffing with an empty gun. Ryan. Ryan's hand shook. You're lying. Ava stepped forward. Calm as surgery. Check your phone. Ryan fumbled it out. The screen showed a single text from his own server. Access revoked. Nice try. The gun wavered. Ava kept walking until the barrel touched her chest. You want to know the difference between us? Ryan, she asked softly, I only needed one life to become your nightmare. You needed two and still lost. Ryan's finger tightened on the trigger. Ethan didn't flinch. Do it, he said. Give me the excuse. Ryan looked over the ledge. Police helicopters already rising like angry hornets. Searchlights sweeping the roof. He made his choice. He put the gun under his own chin. Ava didn't stop him. The gunshot echoed across Manhattan. They didn't let Ryan's body hit the ground. Ethan caught him by the collar, dragged him back from the edge, and zip-tied his wrists before the echo died. Ryan was sobbing. Alive. Ruined. Ava crouched, gown pooling like spilled milk. You don't get the easy way out, she said. You're going to live long enough to watch everything burn. Police swarmed the roof minutes later. Ryan was read his rights while bleeding from a grazed temple where Ethan had shot the gun out of his hand at the last second. Isabella was arrested in the ballroom, still screaming that it was all a setup. Her father, the senator, disavowed her on live television before the dessert course. By midnight, the Blackwell empire was in freefall. Stock halted. Board members resigning via email. Creditors are calling in loans. Ava and Ethan never made it to their own altar. They got married 3 nights later on the deck of a quiet yacht in the Hudson. Just them, a captain, and a bottle of champagne older than both their lives combined. Ethan could walk without pain now. He carried her over the threshold of the master cabin like it was the most natural thing in the world. Later, tangled and breathless, he asked the question he'd been holding since the rooftop. Was any of it real, the luck, the koi star? Ava traced the scar on his shoulder, an old shrapnel kiss. Does it matter? He considered, no, I want to know if I married a goddess or a very clever devil. She laughed into his neck. Can't I be both? His phone buzzed. A news alert Eleanor Blackwell was arrested at Teterboro, trying to board a private jet with $180 million in bearer bonds and a one-way ticket to a country with no extradition. Ava closed the phone. Leave it. The world can wait until morning. Ethan kissed her slowly and deliberately. The world can wait forever. Capri, July. The yacht was named Second Life because Ethan had a sense of humor. Ava lay on the sun-drenched aft deck in a white bikini and one of Ethan's old Navy t-shirts. 7 months pregnant and radiant with it. Her belly moved as if there was a tiny boxer inside, practicing combinations. Ethan emerged from below with 2 glasses of sparkling water and a grin that hadn't left his face since the stick turned pink. Still hoping for a girl she teased. Girl, boy, doesn't matter, he said, kneeling to kiss the swell of her stomach as long as they have your eyes and my trigger discipline. She rolled those eyes. You're terrible. You married me. Temporary insanity. He laughed and stretched out beside her, hand resting protectively over their child. The news played softly on the outdoor screen, muted. Ryan Blackwell had taken a plea life without parole. He'd tried to hang himself in pretrial detention twice, both times the bedsheet tore. The 3rd time the guards cut him down, he was laughing and crying, saying the coy woman wouldn't let him die yet. Isabella Voss was disbarred, bankrupt, facing 20 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Her father lost the Senate seat in the primary. The family name was poisoned now. Eleanor Blackwell died in federal custody of a stroke, or maybe a broken heart. The autopsy was inconclusive. The Blackwell estate in the Hamptons, the one with the private beach where Ava had once been buried alive, was seized by the government and turned into a shelter for trafficking survivors. Ava signed the papers herself. Ethan muted the television entirely. You okay? She considered the horizon. Endless blue meeting endless blue. I used to think revenge would feel bigger, she said, louder. But it's like exhaling after holding your breath for years. He threaded his fingers through hers. And now I want to teach our kid how to sail, how to spot a lie, and how to break a man's wrist in 3 places before he knows he's been touched. Ethan grinned. That's my girl. The baby kicked hard, right under his palm. They both laughed, startled and delighted. Far out on the water, a pod of dolphins arced through the wake of the yacht.
silver bodies flashing in the sun like living koi.
Ava watched them, eyes soft. "Still think I'm bad luck?" she'd asked him once. Ethan kissed her temple, tasting salt in summer in the future. "Only for men who deserve it," he said. And for the first time in 2 lifetimes, Ava Harper believed in happy endings.